Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
Two.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15 and a half. Like Jack Besh this morning was 11 and a half, and his number got bet up to 15 and a half. Tyler Lockett was 16 and a half and bet down to 15 and a half. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Plenty to get to on today's show. We get ready for another huge week in college football. Some very big matchups to preview with you, and Bill Bender will join us from that, courtesy of Sporting News. Also from Just Baseball, Jack McMullen is in the house talking some baseball, getting you ready for their upcoming show later today. Lance Meadow, who does play-by-play for the New York Giants, will weigh in on the latest coaching change in the National Football League. And of course, we'll cover the National Basketball Association as well. Some fantastic finishes in the NBA last night. Not so much on Monday Night Football, by the way. Not the best game of the season on Monday Night Football. But of course, we'll recap that as well. First, let's get started with a change in Major League Baseball ahead of the GM meetings that are getting ready to start in Las Vegas. It appears as though the sports betting scandal that involved two pitchers on the Cleveland Guardians have led to a very significant change, which indeed will include max bets. What does it mean? U.S. sportsbooks will establish a nationwide $200 betting limit on baseball wagers that are centered on micro betting, specifically individual pitches, and those cannot be included in a parlay. DraftKings and FanDuel, the two largest sportsbook operators, said they've agreed to adjust their baseball betting menus and abide by baseball's requests, and believe that the legal market's ability to deflect bad actors will act as a deterrent. So essentially, can't bet $5,000 on a pitch anymore in Major League Baseball. Meanwhile, along those lines, Luis Ortiz, who is one of the center figures of this allegation and indictment, has appeared in Boston federal court. The judge set his bond at $500,000 and ordered him to surrender his passport and maintain residence in Boston. He can travel to New York for court, and Ortiz will be entering a plea this coming Wednesday. Meanwhile, a big change in the National Basketball Association ahead of tonight's games. Nico Harrison, the general manager who famously traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, has been fired this morning. According to reports, Harrison will be let go. As of right now, still waiting on a press conference, naturally, from the owner who will be involved in this sort of change. But Harrison did trade Luka for Anthony Davis last year, and apparently they don't like the way that went. But the owner is the one that has to approve these trades too. So where does he stand in this? I guess we'll wait to hear his press conference. All right, last last night the Eagles defeated the Packers, worst Monday night game of the year. Let's just call it what it was. No score at the half. 10-7 the final, as the Eagles needed every single defensive effort they could get to win this one. Packers didn't do themselves any favors as well. But now Philadelphia in the driver's seat once again in the NFC, and the Packers have to be looking over their shoulder at the Chicago Bears, who have been on fire. Nothing really much to say about offense, although the Packers did get a Josh Jacobs touchdown late. Hopefully that helped you in fantasy in some way. But this one was a snoozer fest. Sometimes you get these on Monday night. Didn't expect this. Nick Sirianni expected a good defensive performance from his Eagle team, and he got it.
I thought the defense did an excellent job taking on blocks. Again, I'll have to look at the tape of everything, but, I did happen to see a replay. Bob showed me the replay of the 4th and 1 stop where, Jalen Carter got some pressure inside and then really good job by Jalen Phillips of pushing that back and playing on their sideline of scrimmage. So I think that was a good example of what we kind of saw today. I thought that the rush was active all game. Creating pressure, getting third down stops. I don't know what were they on third down. I thought we did a really good job on third down, getting off the field. And a lot of that had to do with how we played up front on the defensive line. But
I'm proud of how we competed. I'm proud of how we weathered through and persevered. I think we showed great resilience throughout this game. And that's a hell of a team we played. It's the best defense we played all year. And with the talent that they have, the ability to rush the passer, who they have in the back end, and a really good group. So, obviously we'll enjoy this one while we can.
Packers have well established a great defense, but where was the offense yesterday? Here's Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love praising the effort, but coming up short.
Fortunately, there's absolutely no moral victories in our sport, but I was proud of our guys' effort. I thought they battled for 4 quarters. We knew it was going to be a 4-quarter fist fight, and I thought our defense was outstanding, and unfortunately just too many mistakes offensively to overcome it. And, I've said this many times, you hold good football teams to 10 points, you should win the football game, in my opinion. But obviously didn't do enough offensively, and, we got a short week. Can't feel sorry for ourselves. We got to figure it out and come back and be better.
Just got to get back to the drawing board. Same thing as last week, get back to the film session. Trying to find ways to figure out what we're not doing as well right now. What's kind of keeping us in a funk and not letting us kind of get into a rhythm. And just keep trying to build on the things we've done a good job of. So it always comes back to getting back to it next week and getting back to work.
Could we see an early return for Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals? He's back at practice. They've opened up the window for him to return. It was thought that he wouldn't be back until sometime in mid-December, but Burrow says that he would like to return on Thanksgiving Day, stating that the division still can be won.
Yeah, our division is wide open. There's a lot of, I think Pittsburgh's 5-4 at this point. We play them this week. So, everything is still there in front of us. It's very rare that our division looks like this, but it does this year. And so, I think we'll be at least in it until the end. I haven't really been in this spot where I've been injured, had surgery, and still had a chance to play in the year. So I've been juggling the injury mindset where, you kind of take a deep breath and then get back to it. And then juggling that with the idea that I could potentially still play this year and, we could still be in it and all of those things. So it's been a lot going on in my mind with those things. And it's a difficult thing to juggle, but now that we're getting closer and closer, now it's just more season mindset.
The Washington Commanders have made a change, at least on the defensive play calling front. Dan Quinn is going to take over the head coach, stating that he doesn't like what he's seen. Shocker, Washington's 28th in the NFL on defense. The Bills head coach Sean McDermott says no changes to the offense as Joe Brady will continue to call plays. Garrett Wilson of the Jets, wide receiver, injured this weekend. He's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. So good news for the Jets, they win. Bad news, they lose their top wide receiver. Crazy finishes last night is the focus in the National Basketball Association. The Miami Heat beat the Cleveland Cavs by a final of 140-138. This came after Donovan Mitchell tied it with a three-point shot with less than a second to go. The Heat wins on an alley-oop. Andrew Wiggins caught it at the buzzer, and this is even doing it without Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. You could probably say best win of the season for Miami against Cleveland. Eric Spoelstra thinks so.
Look, I've had that play on my card listed as CQ for 4 years. So when it got to that point, Quinny said, hey, we should run that. And I said, you know what? There's no better person than to diagram it than the one who came up with the dang thing. So I just had him diagram the play. And it worked beautifully. I thought Norm sold it really well. And then, Wiggs made a great cut on it. And then Nico just put it right on the lip of the rim. Like, couldn't made a better pass. If it would have been anywhere else, it would have been, 0.6, or something like that. So it was great execution to get that. It was a classic game. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. It's better when you get the win.
Desmond Bane got a win for the Magic last night, also at the buzzer, a three-point shot. Orlando beats Portland 115-112. Wemby went off again last night, Victor Wembanyama, in case you don't know his nickname. Spurs beat the Bulls 121-117. Wemby, 38 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Hawks go to Los Angeles and hand the Clippers their 5th straight loss, 105-102. Bill Bender from Sporting News previewing college football up next.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Bill Bender is with us twice a week to go back and look at some of the college football results, preview the upcoming week ahead, and Bill is always with us ahead of the big announcement in the college football playoff. I do see some good games on the schedule this week. I feel like, Bill, the last couple of weeks have been a little snoozy. I know we've had some good finishes, but, waiting for some of the bigger games to determine where we're going to be. We got that a little bit this past Saturday, with Oregon defeating Iowa and staying involved heavily in the playoff chase. They needed to have it. It was predicted to be a close, low-scoring game. hey, Bill, it happened, right? Like sometimes these predictions actually come true, as Iowa really gave Oregon all they could handle, but the Ducks end up picking up a monstrous win on the road, despite not really doing much on offense. But that's the story. When you play Iowa, you got to play their game. I would say this, Bill, rare to play Iowa's game at Iowa and win. Oregon got it done.
That felt like a Kirk Ferentz special from start to finish, even on the late Iowa touchdown and how they drove the field. But, you got to give credit to Oregon. I think they have been treated a little bit differently in these rankings based on that loss to Indiana, and we're not quite sure if they're elite or not. But I'll tell you right now, Dante Moore made an elite throw to Malik Benson to set up that game-winning field goal. I mean, it was a dime, a dot, whatever you want to call it. And now Oregon-USC here in a couple weeks becomes a huge game in this Big Ten race. The Big Ten is looking to get 4 teams in the playoff. If they want to do that, they're going to need either USC to beat Oregon or Michigan to beat Ohio State. And I'm not sure either one of those things is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels to me like Oregon is on the brink of being special again, but I just don't see that same kind of team that they've had in the past. But look, Dan Lanning always does a great job. We'll see what ends up happening in the end. All right, so the play of the weekend in both college and pro football, probably the touchdown that Indiana got to beat Penn State 27-24. At this point, I think it's fair to say that was the scare that they're going to have this season. And now Fernando Mendoza can just focus on getting wins. And I think the Heisman Trophy is definitely very much in play. I still think Julian Sainz got a great shot at this, even though their defense, I think, is better than their offense. But everyone's talking, Bill, about the call by Gus Johnson at the end of the game and him losing his voice and going crazy there. Hey, that's a Heisman moment, though, isn't it? That touchdown?
He's had a couple of those this year between that drive and then the drive at Iowa that helped Indiana win that game. And, first of all, Omar Cooper Jr., what body control to make that catch. It's one of the best catches I've seen in recent memory, the way he elevated and then got his feet down. Fernando Mendoza's calm because, to be fair, Penn State did everything but win the game. They controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides. They ran the football well. They rallied in the second half. They had a chance to put Indiana away with the home crowd, and Fernando Mendoza took advantage of the situation. I do think Julian Sayin is still a better Heisman bet because if it comes down to the Big Ten championship game, I'm going to probably pick Ohio State in that moment. The only thing, though, Craig, how many votes does Jeremiah Smith steal from both of these guys and make it almost like a three-way Big Ten race? He's one of the best. I still think he's the best player in the country.
Yeah, I mean, love on Notre Dame, to me, has emerged as that guy on offense. I mean, he's going to be a first-round pick, too. To your point, though, Mendoza, who, by the way, no one was talking about winning the Heisman at the beginning of the season, is plus 170. Sayin at least got some love at plus 160. It does seem like a two-player race at this point, as it should be in November. The season is coming to an end. No disrespect to Ty Simpson or Marcel Reed. We'll get to Reed now. So Mike Elko and Texas A&M, they keep rolling on. They're 9-0. Elko even taking shots at Notre Dame. He's feeling it himself a little bit after beating Missouri 38-17. I don't know. It feels to me like A&M has just played solid football all season. They're sort of sneaking up on everybody now in the top 3, so they're going to get that kind of attention. At this point, is it conceivable that A&M could win the SEC championship, Bill? I feel like I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but they're cemented into the playoff, I think, at this point.
Yeah, one more win gets them to 10, and it would be hard to turn them away at that point. Mike Elko's done a fantastic job. They're balanced. It's not just Marcel Reed at quarterback, and he's had big numbers, obviously. The running game around Reuben Owens, the former 5-star running back, he's been effective. Cassius Howe in the defense. They haven't had an apparent weakness, and I'm really looking forward to when they play Texas in a couple weeks, because that's when we're going to be like, oh my gosh, they're for real in that rivalry game. It might be the hottest game of rivalry weekend, but they are a good bet to get to Atlanta. All they have to do is win a couple more games.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so undefeated regular season A&M minus 120, which is crazy to think at the beginning of the season that could happen. And, certainly in play to win the national championship. They're one of a handful of teams that are right there. And we've talked about Marcel Reed winning the Heisman, still in play for sure. All right, Bill, we've got your college football playoff predictions before they come out. So let's take a look real quick. I'll start off. Ohio State, Alabama, Indiana, A&M. Those are your top 4 seeds, Bill. Is that even with Indiana losing to Ohio State? You feel that way?
I do, because I think they'll put the SEC champion too, and Alabama's still my pick to do that, and that's a pretty solid top 4. 2 SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams. You can mix and match them however you want, but I'm pretty confident in that top 4 right now.
All right, so then you have the rest of the 12. Let's take a look here, guys. Throw it up. Georgia, USF. Wouldn't that be something for South Florida to get in? They could. Texas Tech against Texas would be a fun matchup. Notre Dame has just that 1 loss to Miami, so you got to put them in the mix against Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, probably his last season. 2 losses, excuse me. Notre Dame lost to A&M and lost. So how are they number 10? The bias there. Oregon against Georgia Tech. Wait, we have to put somebody in the ACC in this, Bill? Are we sure?
We do, unfortunately, I think, because you have the 5 highest ranked conference champions get into the playoff. So Georgia Tech, even at that, will probably get in. They would be a lower seed. I don't even know if the ACC will get a first-round home game. Notre Dame, obviously, with the 2 losses, I have that Irish bias in this house, but they can move up if they keep winning and get to 10-2. And, man, keep an eye on Vanderbilt. If Texas loses to Georgia, you could probably slide Vanderbilt in there as the 5th SEC team, especially if they get to 10-2 with losses to Alabama and Texas.
And Oklahoma in the mix, as well as Virginia. Some new teams getting into the playoff this year. I kind of like it, Bill. All right, Bill, we'll catch up again later this week and preview the big games coming up this weekend. The Crimson Tide, I know, have a big one as well. Thanks again for coming on.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, speaking of which, coming up, we'll preview that game between Alabama and Oklahoma. The SportsGrid Sound Off is next.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he could turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72
Keep
to nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You know that if you've watched this show for many years, that I have a little disdain for Notre Dame. Okay? I'm just calling it what it is. I don't want to sit here and lie to you, I mean, Luke knows and Frank knows. Bill Bender knows. But maybe you don't. I have my reasons. We're going to hear from Marcus Freeman. Not going to play favorites. We'll also preview Oklahoma, Alabama. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, so this game between Notre Dame and Pitt means a couple of things. First thing that's most important is that the Irish, I don't think, can lose again and get in the college football playoff. I don't think so, but you never know. As far as Pitt is concerned, this is it. This is their game of the year. They got to beat Notre Dame to still have a shot at anything. Although, playing on a New Year's Day bowl game is not bad. It's not where they want to be. So today, here on the show, let's hear from Marcus Freeman, who gets ready for this big game and knows that defensively is where Pitt is their strength. And can they get past that and get a win on the road in Pennsylvania?
And their defense is aggressive, tough, physical, everything you would think of a defense that plays under Pat Narduzzi. I've studied him for years and the things they do, and they're creating a lot of havoc. They're going to do everything in their power to stop the run. So we got to be prepared and we got to have answers. And so in their special teams, like that's where I've seen probably a difference from maybe when the last time we played them is they are creative, challenging on all phases of special teams that we have to be prepared for. So as I was reminded yesterday, somebody texted me, it's a trap game. I said, this is not a trap game. This is a challenge. This is a real challenge, a great challenge. And so we have to understand the challenge that we have ahead of us on Saturday and use that as, again, a reminder to prepare the right way, to take care of what we have, and that's what's right in front of us. And so we got to get to work, and we've been getting to work, and we got to continue to do it. So
Southeastern Conference has a couple of marquee matchups this week. Haven't seen these in a few weeks, so Saturday and Saturday night should be fun. Oklahoma, number 11 team in the country, travels to Alabama to take on the Crimson Tide. Kalen DeBoer knows the team has played very well over the last couple of months, but this will be the key test to get them over the top.
Penalties, love the direction that continues to go. Just 2 for 25 yards and winning the takeover, winning the turnover margin, doing that each and every week. That's just really an identity of who we are. And we're going to have to really do that again this week because we're facing a team that I think abides by a lot of the same things that we emphasize when it comes to physicality, when it comes to, win the turnover margin, winning in the red zone, each side of the ball for Oklahoma. The same thing applies to, what we take a lot of pride in. So they have, good skill with their special teams. And, you can see the field goals and their punting game. They excel there. So going to take all 3 phases to have a win come out this weekend, but ready for the week of practice. I know the guys are excited.
Finally, it's been an up and down season for the University of Texas and specifically for Arch Manning, but here they are on the doorstep yet again of the college football playoff. They travel to Athens to take on Georgia, the number 5 team in the country, Kirby Smart. All the accolades, not just for Arch Manning, but for the Manning family in general.
Yeah, it really wasn't about the celebrity nature or the last name. It was about the tape, have a good relationship with their family. I've known his dad for a while, his uncle for a long time, and his grandfather. They've got a wonderful family, but it has nothing to do with his recruitment. His recruitment was based on he's athletic, he's fast, he's tall, he's intelligent, he's got composure. He's got arm. I mean, he can do it all. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. In this day and age, you got to have a quarterback that can do both. He can, and I think he's got great composure. He's not really affected by not many things. Even the way he's managed the hype and expectations of what he was supposed to be this year. None of that was. He didn't call any of that to come to him. It's just what the outside sources did, and it doesn't seem to have affected him. He knows he's got to grow and get better, and I think Sark's done a great job kind of bringing him up and allowing him to develop and get better.
Top story of the day isn't football, it's basketball. Nico Harrison has been shown the door. General manager of the Dallas Mavericks, who famously traded Luka Doncic to Anthony Davis, didn't last much longer than that, just a few months, and he is gone. Matt Riccardi is interim GM, and so is former NBA All-Star Michael Finley, who, of course, played with the Dallas Mavericks. They'll co-GM this thing until they get things figured out. All right, we got to figure out fantasy football. Joe Pisapia is going to help us do that. We'll get into some of the winners and losers, and there was one big winner that if you had on your team this week and lost, I was waiting for you guys to tell me that you did. I can't find anyone. I'll tell you who that is next.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
This just goes to show that, you get a very compelling, competitive series between two teams. And listen, I understand very much international with, the team playing in Canada and Toronto and Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto and everybody else. But dare I say, I think these ratings would have been super high anyway. It was just great baseball. Next day, people talking about the games and the biggest win for Major League Baseball in some time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not throwing it back. You come and get it. Like, no way. Even I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not, Vladimir Guerrero, home run, hit ball, these things are authenticated. They have holograms on them. You can prove it. Right? So, there'll be some Blue Jay fan give you a couple of $100K for that. You know what I mean? Guaranteed. World Series ball, home run, you're getting a couple of $100K at least. I'm not throwing that back. No way in hell.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
All right, Joe Pisapia is back with us. He took a bye week last week, and he's back with us here for the rest of the fantasy football season. Hopefully several of his 64 fantasy football teams are still alive here. I have two teams. I have one, my season is kaput, and I have one that I'm still very much alive and actually surging in a little bit, so I'm actually feeling a lot better to see Joe and talk some fantasy football with you. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I like to take that little bye week once a season, just kind of get away a little bit. I did not enjoy the 8.5-hour plane delay on Saturday trying to get home. That was a long time to be in an airport with two teenage girls. So my daughters made it through, though luckily we did eventually get back to New Jersey from Florida. But we had a great time, and now I'm refreshed, and we're coming off a really exciting Week 10, too. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. Definitely some winners and losers here.
Definitely so. Joe, I made the point on yesterday's show, and I don't do this very often because I know how fantasy football goes, okay? But if you had Jonathan Taylor and lost, I told people on social media, come at me, come after me. I got to see how this went so spectacularly wrong because he had one of the best fantasy days in years at running back, 32 attempts, 244 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. He's one of your winners, as well as Travion Henderson, who's now finally playing, and Mac Jones, who had a great game in a loss against the Rams. But let's focus here on Jonathan Taylor for a minute, because fantasy owners are so happy, but they're crying because he's not going to play this week. To me, I don't know. I mean, you probably would have the perspective on all-time performances. I'm going to say no, not an all-time performance, but maybe over the last couple of years up there, right? Fair to say?
It's certainly, look, last year Saquon Barkley had a fantastic season. We're talking about individual game scenarios. Certainly Jonathan Taylor's performance in Week 10 is one of the best we've seen in the last 10 years. I mean, it's just been spectacular. And it's not just that, too. It's what he's done all season long for this team. And that's why he is now being considered in this MVP race, because it's not a great year for the quarterbacks. I know Drake May is at the top right now with Matthew Stafford. There's Jonathan Taylor right there with him. And you can argue as a second-round pick this year, Jonathan Taylor is easily the fantasy MVP of the season because he was not taken in any first round that I was in. He basically was going somewhere in that second round. And that was, at the time, a pretty good indication. He had dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, but he has been so good in this offense this year. And Daniel Jones has been good enough that they move the chains. They give Jonathan Taylor more opportunities. And that's been the problem the last couple of years for this offense, is that they're not on the field long enough. When you can sustain some drives and keep getting Jonathan Taylor the football, good things happen. Now, what's the threshold to get him to MVP in the NFL? That's an interesting question because I think he has to get over 2,000 yards. The touchdown total has got to be just undeniable. And he's on pace for that. And in a year where there's Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen, and none of them are having great seasons, I know Drake May has had a fantastic emerging season here. But at the same point, I don't know necessarily if that's the way it's going to go. But speaking of the Patriots, Travion Henderson's coming out party. That genie is out of the bottle now. I don't think you can put it back in. If you have Ramondre Stevenson, I think you hold on to him. But I will say this. Travion Henderson, fresh legs in New England in the wintertime now coming up, right? It's going to get colder. It's 36 degrees in New Jersey. It's a culture shock from Florida, from where I just came visiting your place. And I will tell you this week against the Jets, all of a sudden, like now you've got the speed of Kyle Williams, the speed of Travion Henderson at the right time, a lot of incredible things. And one more thing too, Mac Jones is a winner, I think, from last week. It's another one where he put up good stats, and I think you look back and you say, okay, does Mac Jones play himself into a role somewhere next year? And considering the quarterback class coming out, I would say the answer is undoubtedly yes. He will be a starter somewhere for some team next season.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to make the Geno Smith mistake, but I think he will, as you said, get 1 year, $7 million, $10 million, 2 years, $15 million, something like that, and he'll be a starter. I think that's a great point. By the way, Jonathan Taylor, 7,000 rushing yards, 70 touchdowns prior to turning 27. Emmitt Smith, Jim Brown, LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, these are Hall of Fame guys, and certainly Taylor is on that trek to do that as well. All right, so Week 10 losers. Joe didn't know that Monday night was going to be so bad, so he told us Thursday night was going to be the worst game, and that didn't even come close. Monday night was way worse. I don't even know. Thursday was really bad too. But Denver beat Vegas 10-7. Nobody got anything going there. It was disastrous. The Bills, I don't know what happened in this game. They lose 30-13, and naturally the Steelers offense has gone back into a shell again. And I suppose that Pittsburgh will be okay. They've just been really inconsistent this season.
I think you've nailed it right there. They're inconsistent. You don't know who they are week to week, which makes them really difficult to invest in, I think, from the betting standpoint, but really difficult too from the fantasy standpoint too. Jalen Warren's that one thing that I think you feel good getting you double digit, somewhere around 14 points every week, right? But Aaron Rodgers' play has been up and down, and they're very predictable. And this is the problem with an Arthur Smith offense, right? They become very predictable. It's what ran him out of town in Atlanta, and you had a lot of good weapons there, and they couldn't figure things out. DK Metcalf getting forced the football is pretty much all they're trying to do, and they don't have enough weapons around him. He's a 40-year-old quarterback. You need to surround him with more. I was hoping at the trade deadline maybe they would make a move for a Jacoby Myers or somebody else. I think he could use a possession wide receiver. They didn't get that. They still don't have that. So it's pretty much an all or nothing offense. And when it's nothing, man, it's really tough from a fantasy perspective. But it was so interesting to watch because it looked as though the Chargers basically had the playbook. They knew exactly what Rodgers was going to do, and that predictability is not going to serve them well. Now, luckily, Thursday night, I didn't see a lick of because I was out there drinking butterbeer in some Harry Potter world, and I missed all of it. But I did not miss Monday.
Good for you.
And Monday was frustrating. Monday was not the best. I'm not going to lie. It was very, very disconcerting.
Not the best?
But
no score.
I will say this. Good for me because I'm still alive by 0.5 points because Saquon Barkley had such a boring night in my Survivor Chop League there in my guillotine. I thought for sure I was toast, but Saquon's quiet night saved me. So I thank the football gods for a boring Monday night.
Yeah, no, it was rough. All right, so waiver wire this week is not that hot. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, by now you got to have your team, but every once in a while someone will pop in there. So let's take a look here. Tez Johnson, he's been added, he's been cut. It seems like he's still a good target here, but eventually maybe Godwin and Evans come back. So what are you investing in there? Algier is going up in terms of ownership as just dumb luck that he was in there near the Bijan Robinson was not. Theo Johnson keeps getting targets, although the quarterback situation there is rough. Luther Burden had a nice game, and Tyler Lockett is back on the fantasy map here a little bit. That's not going to inspire a lot of people, let's be honest, Joe. I mean, this is like your basic – you look at your team, you look at your league. If it's an active league, you're making trades, right? Like, this is it. Like, if you're going to try to get better, dynasty or not, you got a couple of weeks left to make a deal, and that's it.
Well, and this is why you watch FSD, because 3 weeks ago we were pounding the table to make a deal for Travion Henderson because it was such a low bar to get him. And I know in a couple of leagues I made that deal. Now, look, Tez Johnson, I think, is a guy worth rostering. He has flex appeal for sure. He's got touchdown upside. He's a smaller frame guy, but he has that big explosive play possibility. And I think even when Mike Evans eventually returns, he'll be fine. Chris Godwin, I'm not holding my breath for at this point, too. And I think that we were supposed to get him back around week 5. It's now week 11, and we still have no insight to that. I also think I would throw Cade Otton on that list, too. Now that he doesn't have to block as much, all of a sudden, Cade Otton can get out there in space and catch more footballs. Theo Johnson, I think, is a tight end worth rostering as well. Even without Jackson Dart probably this week, I think Theo Johnson will get some work and he'll get some target share. Tyler Algier is the one that surprises me that he is not rostered in more leagues. If you have Bijan Robinson, you must have Tyler Algier for the stretch run. If something happens to Bijan, he is one of the best insurance policies you're going to find. Brian Robinson, you could say the same thing. He's getting more work the last couple weeks. You can talk about what the game script's been or whatever it might be, but McCaffrey's workload has been enormous this year. So this week is more about insurance on the waiver wire. And of course, we also had a huge move here with Brian Daboll getting fired. I mean, when you have a win probability over 90% in 3 games, you have to get rid of the head coach if you can't win one of those games. So it's a tough situation. But Craig, I'll ask you this. When you go in next year, you look like you have a franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. You have an all-world wide receiver, Malik Neighbors. You have Cam Scadaboo. You've got some good players on defense. Isn't the Giants probably the most desirable job you could possibly find next year in 2025?
It is a good job. I would say, honestly, the way that it works, though, Joe, and I'm not being biased here. You know, I'm not necessarily a Dolphins fan. Despite living here, most people would rather have the Miami job because it's Miami. Okay. It's just, I just think that's, without anyone, people just want to live.
It's cold here. You're reminding me
iguanas falling from the trees. Iguanas, your favorite time of the year.
Living together. It's mass hysteria. So.
All right, Joe. See ya. Have a good week.
Thanks, Ben.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
This just goes to show that, you get a very compelling, competitive series between two teams. And listen, I understand very much international with, the team playing in Canada and Toronto and Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto and everybody else. But dare I say, I think these ratings would have been super high anyway. It was just great baseball. Next day, people talking about the games and the biggest win for Major League Baseball in some time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm not throwing it back. You come and get it. Like, no way. Even I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not, Vladimir Guerrero, home run hit ball, these things are authenticated. They have holograms on them. You can prove it. Right? So, there'll be some Blue Jay fan give you a couple of $100K for that. You know what I mean? Guaranteed. World Series ball, home run, you're getting a couple of $100K at least. I'm not throwing that back. No way in hell.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Worked with Lance Meadow for many years over at SiriusXM, and he's back now joining us to talk a little Giants football. You can find his work over at Giants.com. Also does on-air talent work for the Giants as well, so he certainly can speak to all of the news that has happened this week in New York. Lance, thank you again for making some time for us. I know it's been a bit, but I'd like to bring you in for some good news, but today it unfortunately has to be a little bit of some some bad news here, as the Giants have showed so much promise this season, but unfortunately have really been on the short end of some very winnable games. And it appears this past Sunday, Lance, sort of, I think, may have unfortunately cost the head coach his job here, because, I mean, how can this keep happening, right? Like, how can your win probability be so high and you blow games in the end? Brian Daboll ends up losing his gig. Let's get into your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think you hit it right on the nose, Craig. They had 4 games this season in which they led by double digits and wound up on the losing end of that. And clearly that's not a track record that gives a head coach a great deal of job security. So I think that, combined with the fact that Jackson Dart left a game due to a concussion or something in that vicinity for the 4th time this season, and he's the future franchise guy that they're hoping will stay healthy and be able to lead this offense moving forward. So I think it was really the lack of execution in closing out games, combined with your quarterback taking a lot of hits and having to go under the microscope from the medical team perspective, that convinced the team maybe it's time to move on and evaluate to see what Mike Kafka can do in the head coach position seat. Not that he's going to get the permanent job, but they might as well use the second half of this year for an evaluation standpoint, if in all likelihood, regardless of what was going to transpire down the stretch, Craig, I think Brian Daboll probably was going to be removed as the head coach after this season. So you were pretty much just going to delay the inevitable, and this gives them a chance to at least evaluate some internal options before they then make their next move.
Yeah, no, all very well said and makes sense. But here is kind of the point, and the next one that we'll have to get sorted out here is that teams are aligned usually with the ownership, the general manager, the coach, and the quarterback. But the alignment here is now off because Daboll has been let go, and Joe Schoen is still the GM, at least for now. This has happened with the Giants in the past. Tom Coughlin was fired. Jerry Reese took over, then he was gone. Pat Shurmur was kept around, but Dave Gettleman was let go in 2021. And to Joe Schoen's credit, I mean, I know the Barkley thing is going to live forever on social media and on TV and everywhere else. I get that. But I mean, Cam Scatterbo looks good. Jackson Dart looks good. The front four that he built looks good. Malik Neighbors looks good too. I mean, this probably, I would guess, and he may lose his job too, but I'm going to guess that this is eating at ownership a little bit, because it's like they look at this thing and are like some of these things are actually going well for us. How do we figure out and fix the whole situation? Because some of the draft picks have really been stellar.
Well, that goes back to the point that you hit on off the top, Craig. I think if you ask the Giants front office as well as ownership, they're saying to themselves, we're a 2-8 team record-wise, but we're better than what the record shows because of the young talent. And if we finish games, you give us maybe 3 wins here or there, it's a completely different trajectory. So I think their philosophy aligns with what you were just selling. They're pleased with the job that Joe Schoen has done in recent history with the draft, and they would like to at least give him a chance to bring in another head coach and see if that coach can help develop the talent that he brought in. But as you also hit on, it's the game of musical chairs that has not worked out very well for the Giants. We're talking about 6 head coaches since Tom Coughlin left, if you include the 2 interim, multiple general managers, and it's never a great thing when you start off with a coach-GM combo, you let one go, and now you're forcing a coach to work with a general manager that doesn't necessarily have any established relationship. There's track record of those things going opposite ends of the spectrum, right, through NFL history. So they are rolling the dice once again, but I think they're saying to themselves, if they bring in the right man that could take the talent, mold it, and be a good person to help get Jackson Dart to the next level, that it doesn't necessarily matter who the general manager is and whether or not he has an established relationship with the new head coach. So I think they're banking on that the coach was the missing piece. He takes the talent to the next level, and that perhaps can provide some stability. There's a lot of risk involved, and it hasn't worked out wonders for them in the past, but that's at least the philosophy that it seems they're going to follow and preach moving forward here.
Lance, in watching the games and watching Jackson Dart, I'm not completely convinced that he's the next, great or even good quarterback in the NFL. I have no idea. It's a small sample. But here is sort of my concern and my question to you, is that when I see him running the ball, and especially when he came out of the gate so well in the first game that he played, a lot of these either improvised runs or maybe even designed runs, I mean, Lance, they're like up the middle. It's very bizarre to me. And I knew at some point, I was saying it here on the show, that some teams are going to like put a spy on this guy, get it figured out. And what it's doing is it's causing him to get hurt. And not just once, but 4 different concussion evaluations this season. So I don't know how you change the player, but I just can't understand why I'm watching this guy take the ball and just running it up the middle so many times. I mean, eventually any quarterback is going to get hurt, Josh Allen and anyone else.
Well, on the Giants, Craig, they don't even have to look that far outside the organization. They went through this with Daniel Jones. And how many times, right, did Daniel Jones run the ball and he tried to bite off more instead of running out of play, and he was sidelined due to injuries? It wasn't necessarily concussions. It was ankles. It was torn ACLs. We could sit here till we're blue in the face and go over the injury list. But the bottom line is there's a lot of risk, and I think Jackson Dart has to learn, this is not necessarily on the coaching, that taking a 3-yard run instead of going for 6 is okay. You live to see another down because you don't want to wind up like Daniel Jones all over again. But it would also not help the Giants' cause if you didn't tap into his athletic skill set, given what we see with these dynamic quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, like Jalen Hurts. It gives you a new dimension. The problem is you have to walk that very fine line, and that's going to be the challenge for the next head coach, and Dart also buying in if he wants to survive here long term.
Great stuff, Lance. As always, appreciate the insight and info, and thanks for coming on the show. Next time you come on, it'll be when the Giants are like a game away from the playoffs or something like that. We got to bring you on with better news. Thanks again.
You got it, Craig. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Oh, is
now.
that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. If you were watching the Red Zone this weekend like I was, and certainly watching the Washington Commanders play their game this past week, which, by the way, didn't go particularly well, you may have seen that President of the United States, Donald Trump, was at the game. In fact, I think if I'm stating this correctly, the broadcasters, and I believe it was Kenny Albert, may have said during the game that the President Donald Trump was the first president to appear on a live NFL broadcast during a game that's not the Super Bowl in like 50 years or something like that. I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, I just hadn't considered that. But either way, there are some reports out there that say the president would like the new DC stadium named after him. So an interesting dynamic, and the president did mention that during the broadcast as well. So what are the possibilities of that happening? And let's get into it with our friends at Front Office Sports. They have a chance to have this discussion and see whether or not this actually could potentially happen. Now, keep in mind, this new stadium still several years away from happening. So at that point, it is certainly possible that the president's run will end in the Oval Office, but they will dive into that as well. Also worth noting here that the Commanders, certainly not having the best season, so not a lot of attention on them like it was last year. But let's check in with our friends at Front Office Sports. They have the very latest on the president wanting to have the stadium named after him.
Well, the White House has been in communication with the Washington Commanders to express President Trump's desire to have the team's new $3.7 billion stadium named after him. This all according to ESPN's Don Van Natta and Adam Schefter. And the new stadium is being built on the old RFK Stadium site that served as the team's home until 1996. So how likely is the president's request to actually happen? Well, let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher. So Eric, tell us more about the president's request here.
So, he wants to make it a lot about himself, and he thinks that he had a prime role in making this happen, which he really didn't. But it's very much about sort of self-glorification in his case, and he's put it out there. I've been in contact with the White House myself, and they told me the same thing, that basically they think this is a great idea and ought to be in recognition of what he did to make this thing happen.
So I guess the bigger question is, and the president has sort of invoked Josh Harris, the owner of the Commanders, and he did over the weekend, as a great owner. Does Josh Harris have the authority to be able to do this?
Yeah, so the way the deal worked between the team and the city, and it's important to remember what happened in the final days of Joe Biden's term, is that the federally owned land on which this project is going to happen, that control went from the federal government to the D.C. government. The D.C. government, during the course of this spring and summer, then made a deal with the team to actually do the stadium and the mixed-use development. And in that master deal, which has about 70% private money and about 30% of DC money, the control over the naming rights does lie with the team, and that's pretty standard in these kind of public-private partnerships, that critical revenue stream remains with the team.
Eric, how do stadiums get named after someone? Because I feel like a lot of the times they're named after sponsorships or corporate entities.
Yeah, this is a critical revenue stream, and in the case of the NFL, we're talking at least 8 figures in value, 10 million minimum. And the top of the market in cases like Las Vegas and Los Angeles, it's north of 20 million. And so this is a fundamental revenue stream, and the team, even though they haven't commented in this particular instance relative to the president, they've made it very clear during the whole deal development process with the District of Columbia that they want to sell these naming rights like any other NFL team in this situation would.
But I also think a lot of these stadium names, if they are named after someone, I think it's mostly posthumously, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And there's a variety of, split the baby kind of scenarios where you could have, person field at XYZ stadium and combine 2 monikers in some sort of fashion like that. But again, that's usually if a person is being recognized, that you are correct. It's usually some sort of posthumous honor and not something sort of pre-negotiated while the person's alive.
Eric, with the last little bit of time we have left with you, the president in the past had said that he maybe would have held up funding for the Commanders if they didn't change their name back to their old name. Is it possible that the president could hold up the stadium again based on this?
Yeah, we got into this a little bit during the summer, during the original funding debate, and there are some regulatory steps where the federal government is involved, particularly as it relates to design planning and so forth. But this is really fundamentally a local issue, and the federal government's power in this whole situation is more limited than what the president has suggested.
we now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is
Numerous
great.
pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Jack McMullen has got a busy offseason ahead, just kind of covering baseball for Just Baseball. He does play-by-play for the Miami Marlins, who's got a couple of months here to get all rested up and get ready for spring training back coming up in February and March. Jack, it's great to see you. Welcome back here to NewsWire. And look, I think the baseball offseason does take a little bit of a dip in interest at some point, but this week is not the week because we had a lot of news. So let's dive in and let's get right to it here. A stunner for the Colorado Rockies. They've dipped into the old Moneyball days with Paul DePodesta as their new president of baseball of operations, who did such a fantastic job 15 years ago before he ended up going to the Cleveland Browns. And now he's back in the mix again. I can't even begin to wonder how this all happened, but I guess we should have known that something out of nowhere was coming, because when I heard Adam Ottavino may end up being the GM or president, I was like, whoa, okay. So the Rockies are going not outside the box, but outside the globe to find their next GM. That's not to say that he can't do a good job here, but I'm just like, what direction are they headed in here, Jack, with DePodesta becoming the president?
I'm not sure. If you don't know the name Paul DePodesta, might I introduce you to Peter Brand? Might I also introduce you to Jonah Hill, who played Peter Brand in Moneyball? Peter Brand, the Jonah Hill character in the movie Moneyball, was based on Paul DePodesta. He was the guy that Billy Beane brought into the Oakland A's to kind of vitalize this Moneyball approach to building a Major League Baseball team. So a lot of Bill James, a lot of sabermetrics here. This is the cutting edge person from 2002 that is now running the Colorado Rockies in 2025. It's a fascinating development for me. Like you mentioned, he was with the Cleveland Browns. He was their chief strategy officer for the Cleveland Browns. Fascinating hire. It's interesting. I know a lot of people around the league have always felt like the Colorado Rockies have been a decade or 2 decades kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to baseball and organizational development. So perfect that they hire the Moneyball guy. And that's about the 2002 to 2003 Oakland Athletics. So I don't know. I wish I could say that it was, a nice change of pace for the Rockies, but it did feel sort of kind of on brand. We'll see. We'll see if he still has his baseball chops here, but this is an incredibly respected person in sports, an incredibly respected person in the game of baseball as well, but really interesting. And I guess uncomfortable hire that, you got to push to make that team a contender in Denver.
Yeah, I think he said he's going to hire a GM. So I think maybe that will give us more of an indication as to kind of where they're headed. But where they've been is at the bottom. 5 last place finishes recently. Their ERA, they've never been able to solve this altitude thing. No matter how they slice it, they haven't been able to. And maybe that's what he's being brought in to do, because back when he was running the A's, the D Podesta, he had Tim Hudson and Barry Zito and a fantastic pitching staff that really doesn't get talked about enough during that time. I think that was overlooked as well. Okay, so if that's not a surprise for you, let me give you another one. New manager of the San Diego Padres, Craig Stammen, relief pitcher not that long ago, is now the new manager of the Padres here. Wow. Like I thought the Pujols thing would have been strange. This is even stranger. Not a lot of experiences from what I'm understanding here, Jack, but I will give the guy credit. He was a really good relief pitcher for a long time. Before we get to that, I want to show you this clip on how AJ Preller got him to take the gig.
Yeah, the process was AJ was very coy about it in the beginning, and I think he's been very understanding of my family situation, how important they are in this process, and even that was a big part of being a special assistant the last couple of years. Him understanding that situation. And so he was always like probing a little bit, like, would you like to do more? Would you like to be a part of the front office a little bit more? Would you like to be, have a little bit more, would you like to be a part of the coaching staff? And so I always knew, and he's articulated that to me, several times of what he thinks of me and how he thought I could be successful in some of the leadership roles within the team. So he was very coy about it at the beginning, and then we kind of got through the interview process a little bit at the beginning of it. And then he put the sales kibosh on me and said, I really want you to be a part of this process. I want you to think about being the manager of the Padres.
I really like this guy, but I'm going to say this. You got a college baseball coach managing. You got a guy who was a special assistant. Jack, I'm thinking a host on SportsGrid is the next manager. So me or you, we got a shot. I mean, the more this happens, I think we got a shot at getting some big gig here. I mean, how do you figure this one? I mean, out of left field, another one that's just way off the grid. Had no idea that this was coming.
Now, let me ask you, do you feel like you could manage a bullpen particularly well? You get into July, August, do you feel like your bullpen management is okay?
I mean, I'm very good at hitting the ice cream thing, pulling it down, it goes in. I mean, what other experience do I need?
No doubt. I think you're good. Not to mention a 33-year-old in Blake Butera was just hired as the manager of the Washington Nationals as well. So you've got a 33-year-old, you've got Craig Stammen, who's a reliever and a front office member, an assistant to the general manager, and you also have Tony Vitello in San Francisco, the college coach who doesn't have a lick of professional baseball experience, stepping into a managerial role. I think what you're seeing now as we start to transition in this era of manager is you want a communicator with people and you want a communicator with professional athletes. Is it a matter of X's and O's and strategies? I don't know. We'll see how well the Cubs do over this 8-year deal for Craig Counsell, but that is the strategist, the X's and O's guy when it comes to baseball managers. Now, I think they want Tony Vitello, who is a recruiter, who is a program builder, a guy that can build a culture in San Francisco. Blake Butera, 33 years old. He's going to be managing guys in Washington that are older than him. Stammen is going to be managing guys that he played with over the course of his playing career. So I feel like you're going a different way, and you're almost going to a vibe curator in that role. And you want somebody to control the vibe in that clubhouse and make sure it's a positive environment. And guys are getting along. Guys are, having fun. They're building towards this greater good as one unit. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting thing. It also, seems pretty interesting to me, the timeline of events that AJ Preller was kind of pursuing Craig Stammen, because he was interviewing candidates and then all of a sudden it turned into, well, maybe I should just interview for this job as well. And AJ Preller was pushing him to do that. I am fascinated, though. Albert Pujols was a candidate for 3 different openings? It was Anaheim for a minute, and it was Baltimore, and then it was San Diego. He didn't get any of them. I just wonder if he is that future manager in waiting that everybody wants to call him. It seems like he would have had an opportunity and then he would have jumped to St. Louis when that eventually does open up. Now it seems a little bit more Yadi Molina than Albert Pujols to me.
Yeah, I would agree there. By the way, the Padres have a ton of free agents, of which I don't think any come back. Cease, King, Suarez, O'Hearn, Arias. I think that this is a clean sweep. They're going to be looking in a new direction. Padres have spent so much money over the last few years. It feels like there's a pullback coming from them. Okay, Rookie of the Year. This was an easy one in the American League. I mean, Nick Kurtz did not have a great start, but he was as good power-wise as any hitter in the big leagues from about May on. 36 home runs, 86 runs driven in, 290. Helped maybe with Sacramento a little bit, but congrats to him, and very well deserved, Jack. I thought that he was as impactful as any hitter down the stretch. Ended up hitting 4 home runs, I believe, in one game too. So A's future probably brighter when it's in Las Vegas, but for now they get some hardware here and a draft pick.
Yeah, they do get a draft pick. That was the prospect promotion incentive, the PPI pick that they get from Nick Kurtz. They also get it as it pertains to Jacob Wilson, who is up, the shortstop. They are the first guys to finish 1 and 2, teammates to finish 1 and 2 in Rookie of the Year voting since Spencer Strider and Michael Harris did it a few years ago in Atlanta. Nick Kurtz, prodigious power. When you start looking at the best first baseman in Major League Baseball going into the 2026 season, it's Vladimir Guerrero, it's Freddie Freeman, it's Pete Alonso, and you probably get to Nick Kurtz right after that. What that guy did in just over 100 Major League Baseball games is solidify himself as a top 5 first baseman in the sport. 26.
Yeah, and the National League, which we'll get to in a minute, a very rare catcher winning Rookie of the Year in Major League Baseball. So let's take a quick break, and we'll keep Jack around. We'll talk about the Atlanta Braves Rookie of the Year and also preview the American League and National League Managers of the Year, which will be announced tonight. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're back with more with Jack McMullen from Just Baseball after this.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Jack McMullen coming up, Just Baseball, 15 minutes away exclusively here on our network on SportsGrid. We have the National League Rookie of the Year, Jack, awarded yesterday. Very rare in 2 forms, I would think. First form, catcher. Generally don't see that a lot, winning Rookie of the Year. Drake Baldwin ends up taking it for Atlanta Braves team that had a pretty dismal year. All things considered, they get the Rookie of the Year here. So that's like the other rare part of this. And I think when you really look at it, the other rare part for me, Jack, is, looking at the odds from the beginning of the season to the end. Like, he was kind of a wire-to-wire Rookie of the Year in it winner. Like, Kurtz kind of came out of nowhere. You just don't know Rookie of the Year in April. but he started off strong, missed some time a little bit, came back, was essentially, the rookie that I think showed the most consistency over the course of the season. I mean, the guy that we covered, of course, Gus Ramirez, like at one point he was up there, and Horton I thought would end up getting it. But, really credit to the Braves for keeping him in there, hanging him in there, and they get that draft pick as well for him winning.
Yeah, and the only guy that really made a push at the end was Cade Horton. To your point, who was one of the best pitchers in baseball after the All-Star break. The Chicago Cubs right-hander finishes second. That goes to show you that voters will almost always side with a hitter. You have to be a generational type of pitcher, and you have to be a guy that pitches beyond your rookie status to win Rookie of the Year. You think about Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh, but even a guy like Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider was one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball in his rookie year. But it goes to Michael Harris, who was a very, very productive everyday outfielder. Playing every day matters to these voters for the Rookie of the Year. And the Rookie of the Year is more of a situational award than really anything else. Manager of the Year, it's almost always going to go to the best team or the team that outperforms expectations the most. MVP, it's kind of an OPS leaderboard award. Like whoever leads in OPS is probably going to win the MVP award. Whoever leads the ERA leaderboard, and if they're near the top in strikeouts, are going to win a Cy Young. But Rookie of the Year, you got to play a lot. Games played does matter, and you have to be productive in those games played. And I thought the only thing that would do Baldwin in, because he was on that roster on opening day with the Sean Murphy injury, was Sean Murphy coming back. I thought that was going to hinder his candidacy, where he was going to be a part-time player. But they got to a point where they kind of relegated Sean Murphy to this part-time role. And obviously that'll look a little bit different in 2026. Marcell Ozuna is not coming back to Atlanta, and Murphy and Baldwin are probably going to flip-flop between catcher and DH. But Baldwin performed to the point where he took at-bats away from an all-star and an extended guy, a guy that was under contract in Sean Murphy. So credit to Drake Baldwin for being good at the beginning, and that allowed him the leeway to kind of push through the end of the year and win this Rookie of the Year.
Let's get to Manager of the Year tonight. Luke, I'm going to flip this up here and do NL first, and then we'll do American League first, okay? So let's start with that, because the reason why is there's no discussion here. Pat Murphy's going to win the National League Manager of the Year. Either Francona or Rob Thompson will finish second. Is there anything more to add on this? Milwaukee was fantastic. Murphy's been great. He's very popular amongst everybody. And then we can debate the AL a little bit, right? Cut and dry?
Cut and dry. Have you started doing the pancake in the back pocket thing? I mean, Pat Murphy eats pancakes and quesadillas out of his pocket now.
Yeah, okay, easy one. All right, so now this is a little tougher. American League Manager of the Year. Let's try to make people understand. I do this all the time here, but people forget. I don't know how they do forget that this is voted on before the playoffs begin. So as fun as John Schneider was and as good as Toronto was in the postseason, it's irrelevant for this award. Stephen Vogt had another great year with Cleveland. Dan Wilson finally got Seattle to a position where they almost competed and got to the World Series here. I'm going to say I don't know who is going to win this.
I'm still going to go John Schneider, and I can understand, I can wrap my head around them voting, the voters getting their votes in before Toronto's World Series run. And the reason I still say John Schneider, Stephen Vogt had already won Manager of the Year in 2024. Is he going to win it in back-to-back seasons? I have no idea. I feel like natural voter inclination is not vote for the guy that you voted for and won last year. As for Dan Wilson, this was his first year. Seattle was very good. I'm with you. A lot of people expected Seattle to be very good and finish near the top of that division. That's exactly what they did. With Toronto, I feel like a lot of people forget that they were more likely to finish in last place than win the division. And what do? They win the division. You could make the argument John Schneider was on the hottest seat in Major League Baseball. Him and Derek Shelton in Pittsburgh coming into the year were the two guys that you said, if this doesn't go right for the first 50 games, they could be out the door. Derek Shelton, after 50 games, was out the door. John Schneider ends up 6 inches away with IKF's left foot from winning a World Series, but he won the American League East. John Schneider, for me, was the manager of that trio that outperformed expectations the most. I can really appreciate Cleveland's meteoric comeback in the AL Central, but it takes two to tango. While Cleveland was playing really well, Detroit was playing incredibly bad.
That's true.
And you've got there were no other factors there. Obviously, New York had their flaws and Boston had their flaws. Toronto outright won the American League East when they were forecasted to finish last. So that's why I go Schneider.
It will be close, I think, because Cleveland was just so hot at the end of the year. That's the last thing that people remember when they made this vote.
Right.
Okay, American League Cy Young will be tomorrow, as well as the NL. The finalists are Crochet, Skubal, and Brown. They have to name three. Brown's not going to win. It's going to be Crochet or Skubal. I feel like Skubal, because he led for the majority of the season, was the guy, but Crochet down the stretch probably better. Is it Skubal winning again? I mean, the numbers look like Crochet could be the guy here.
I know. I bet they go Skubal again because the well-rounded nature of Skubal's go is probably just better. You look at the strikeout totals, 14. Is that as negligible as a 2.21 to a 2.59 ERA? I think so. But 18-2 is a crazy record. Records, how much do they matter in Major League Baseball in 2025? I go Tarek Skubal. Skubal will be the first back-to-back Cy Young Award winner in the American League since Pedro Martinez in 99 and 2000. I think I have those years right. But that is elite company for Tarek Skubal to be a part of. It's really 1A, 1B when you think about the best pitchers on the planet, and those guys should both win Cy Youngs this year, and Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal.
So you got Skeens in the NL?
Landslide.
Is that
landslide?
Yeah, landslide. Okay.
Yeah.
There's Skeens' numbers. Can't win games in Pittsburgh, but the other numbers are fantastic. All right, we'll catch Just Baseball.
It's a DeGrom Cy Young.
It is. All right, Just Baseball coming up. They'll talk MVPs and everything else. Thanks again, Jack, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon. Thanks again.
Thank you, Craig.
All right, Jack McMullen from Just Baseball, also play-by-play radio for the Miami Marlins. We'll be back to wrap it up next on the way.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF
is
now.
that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF now.
So he's got an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72-0.
Keep that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Big news in the NBA today is Nico Harrison, general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, is out of work after making that mega trade last season. Also a historic night in Florida for a couple of NBA teams, and there is a pet out there that doesn't like to watch their soccer team lose. True story. We got it all for you on this edition of Last Licks. Hard to believe, for almost 40 years, the Orlando Magic, Miami Heat been around. In fact, I was at the Heat's first ever game and that was season ticket holder of the Heat, by the way. First time ever in NBA history, get this, folks, that multiple teams from the same state in the same day won game-winning buzzer beaters. How about that? Heat and Magic both did it yesterday. Wiggins with the alley-oop dunk, and here is Desmond Bane of the Orlando Magic with the game-winning three-pointer.
First one. Yeah.
What does the moment feel like when you hit that and your team just tackles you essentially? Just what was that like?
It was hard to process it really until like everything kind of slowed down. You know, I mean, it was a back and forth game. You know, down the stretch, got close, got crazy, and you know, we needed that one for sure.
Des, take us through that play. You know, what were you looking for, and how did you feel as the shot left your hands?
We drew it up for Paulo. You know, he had just scored on the one before, and you know, I was the like the outlet. You know, Dell set a good screen like he always do, and you know, let it ride.
Hard to believe. No, and this hasn't happened in New York or Texas or California or somewhere else. It happened in the state of Florida. Okay, Nico Harrison made a trade last year that's now going to be in the books and the annals of everything else. Is probably the worst trade in the history of the NBA. He traded superstar Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. And after he did it, he did a press conference, and he was asked back then why he should still keep his job.
Why shouldn't you be fired?
Well, one, I think I've done a really good job here, and I don't think I can be judged by the injuries this year. You have to judge from totality, from beginning to end. And so I think I have a really good working relationship with Patrick. I think you add in Rick. The leadership that we have is really elite. And you'll see next year when our team comes back, we're going to be competing for a championship.
Yeah, I'm not going to dunk on Nico Harrison. I'm not going to do that. I mean, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks was actually sitting with a fan last night. The fan got interviewed and said that the owner knew that it was a bad trade and was going to try to make it right. Imagine the owner telling this to a fan sitting next to him. Look, Nico Harrison may not be a good general manager. It's very possible. This may be the worst trade in the history of the NBA. I don't know that it is, but that's very possible. In the end, this deal has to get approved by the owner. The general manager can have a very bad idea. The owner has to agree with this very bad idea, and he did. I mean, you have to understand, this is the way sports works. With a deal of this magnitude, it does not get past the owner of the Dallas Mavericks without him saying, okay, let's go ahead and make the deal. Nothing about him today, all about Nico Harrison. Finally, a pet story. We always like to end with pet stories. This is a pet parrot, otherwise known as a cockatoo, that lives in England and has gone viral because the parrot, cockatoo, I don't know how many times I can say that here on the show, watches Liverpool matches in soccer. And when Liverpool loses, which isn't that often because they're a really good soccer club, the cockatoo, as they say these days, the kids, it crashes out. The cockatoo starts yelling, screaming, going crazy, and then falls down. This is true. You got to check it out. It's gone viral. And these animals are very, very smart. They speak. You know this, right? But this is one I think that you should check out online. We can't show it because we don't have the rights to it, but I can't do it justice enough. You check it out for yourself on YouTube. You can actually watch that on YouTube, unlike ESPN. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks to all of our guests here on the program, including Lance Meadow for coming on the show. Did a great job. Bill Bender from Sporting News and Jack McMullen from Just Baseball. Thanks to, of course, all our guest contributors. And for those of you who want to stream our show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's really easy to do. Just take out your phone. I'm going to show you a QR code. You can scan it, and it's available for both iOS and Android. The SportsGrid app, streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, also allows you to track your bets via the SportsGrid app. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to our director, Luke, for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. See you back here for our midweek edition of NewsWire. That is Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Just Baseball is next. See you tomorrow.